You're good.
Take a mask off. Welcome to the Chiefs Cheat Sheet. I'm Darren Smith along with Steve Walls. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland. We're at the M&T Bank Stadium where the Chiefs will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens in a Sunday night matchup on NBC in just under 1 hour. About 50 minutes will be showtime. It'll be showtime in Baltimore, Maryland, Chocolate City, as some of us like to call it, where the Kansas City Chiefs, who were 2-0, actually 1-0, will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming into their home opener with an 0-1 record after their 33-27 loss on Monday night to the Las Vegas Raiders. Steve, well, first of all, what are your thoughts being here in Las Vegas? We're back, in Baltimore, we're back on the road. We're here in Baltimore, and of course, we got a chance to see, the walk, the Baltimore walk, or the Raven walk, as they call it, so to speak.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did Facebook Live a little bit ago, and how they do their tailgate is like up under a bridge. They stuff all their fans up under one bridge. It's like fend for yourselves. It's really, really interesting. But that's to say the least. I think it's going to be a good game. It's already an electric atmosphere inside of M&T Bank Stadium, and you know what? I'm ready for some football. Sunday night football, that is.
Yeah, look, this is one of 5 primetime games for the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, in just under 3 weeks, they'll be hosting Sunday night football when they take on the Buffalo Bills. Steve, look, coming into tonight's game, the Chiefs have won the last 4 games against the Baltimore Ravens. In the last 3, obviously, where Patrick and Lamar have been on opposite sides of the starting lineup from each other. Your thoughts on this matchup?
You know what? This is one of those games where it's going to be make or break, I think, for the Baltimore Ravens. This game right here will make or break their season. The reason why I say this is because you have normally when you look in the NFL, there's only 4 teams, or there's only teams that have 4 players on injured reserve. Yeah. The Baltimore Ravens have 14 on injured reserve.
I think it went up to 16 today.
It's 16. So they are really going to have to be battle tested in this game. If they want to win, I think they're going to try to slow down the Kansas City Chiefs and get to their running game. Of course, their starting running back, he's out for the season, and they got a lot of backup guys they're wanting to prove. I'm not saying that the Chiefs are going to come out there and dominate, which is what I believe they want to do, but it's going to be slow going here, I think, in the first quarter.
Now, looking at tonight's game, Andy Reid in his career is 6-1 against the team. Jim Harbaugh actually has a losing record against the Chiefs with a 3-4 record. Steve, what's going to be your initial key thoughts on this matchup? Now, we saw Monday night's game where the Ravens, they're obviously going to look to run the football, and that's where Kansas City's weakness was. I don't want to say exposed, but we saw they had problems with tackling last week against the Cleveland Browns. We know against this team, Lamar Jackson, everything starts and ends with him.
It does. But we saw last week with against the Raiders, when Lamar Jackson tries to do too much, sometimes it goes against what the team wants to do. And sometimes when he wants to play Lamar Jackson football, it can either make or break the team. And last week we saw that it didn't make the team. It broke them down at the end of the game.
Kansas City, of course, they won last week 33-29 over the Cleveland Browns. Now, Steve, we saw Patrick Mahomes. He was 27-36 in that game. He had 3 touchdown passes, 1 on the ground. Big game for Tyreek Hill, of course. He had 11 catches for 197 yards. Man. In this game, they're going to be facing their old teammate in Sammy Watkins and, of course, Justin Houston. What do you expect, or what do you see from them? Going up against their old teammates, because we saw Sammy last week when he looked healthy. When he's healthy. And this is probably one of the few times that you will actually see when you will actually see someone that's healthy on being a Sammy Watkins in this ball game tonight.
Here's the thing about Sammy Watkins. It's like you said, it's very frustrating for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, when you see Sammy come to a team and flourish, right?
Well, only been one game. So
he flourished last week.
He did.
And when you look at Sammy the past few years, you get him flourishing. Going back to, I believe it was 2 years ago when he had a great game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And at the rest of the season, Sammy Watkins did not catch a touchdown until postseason. And so I think Sammy Watkins is going to try to come out here and prove to not only himself, but also the Kansas City Chiefs and Kansas City Chiefs fans that he's a reliable receiver. He's still a number, what was he? Was he top 10 draft pick? Right?
I think it was number 4.
Number 4. So first round draft pick as a wide receiver coming out of Clemson. I think Sammy is going to try to prove a lot in today's game.
One thing to look forward to see whether or not the Chiefs are able to run the football. Last week, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he led the team in rushing, but he only had 72 yards from scrimmage, only 43 on the ground. Now the Chiefs, of course, they have a new makeshift offensive line that they brought in. 5 new starters, 3 rookies. Of course, you had Orlando Brown. This is his homecoming of sorts, as he was traded from Baltimore to Kansas City in the offseason prior to the draft. If you're Orlando Brown, one of the things that that last week showed is that you can get pressure on Orlando. He had 5 quarterback pressures.
Right.
That's the most in his young career thus far. But but the thing is, as he said, that they know all his strength, they know all his weaknesses, but vice versa, he knows all of their defensive strength and all of their weaknesses as well. What are you expecting from Orlando Brown and this offensive line in tonight's ballgame?
Here's the deal. Orlando Brown is working on a 1-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. And so what that tells me is that anytime you have an NFL player or anybody in professional sports that is coming up on a contract year, what do they want to go out and do? They want to go out and ball. They want to go out and show that whatever team that they're on, or even future possible teams, that they're able to play the game at a high level and that they're worthy of getting paid. And I think that's what Orlando wants to do. He wants to come out here kind of like Sammy Watkins and show, hey, this is what you guys were missing when you didn't want to pay me. So now I'm going to go and show you what you were missing, and I hopefully will be able to get paid from the Kansas City Chiefs. And Orlando Brown, he understands that he's coming into an environment that he knows so well. He talked about the suite that every time he came out here as a player for the Ravens, that he and his dad, when he was a kid, he used to come here and sit in the suite and watch his dad play. And he used to look up and it's like, man, I'm here now, and I'm looking at the suite where I watched my dad play as a kid. Now he's going to come out there, and I think the lights are going to be bright for Orlando Brown, because he's going to look up there and say, man, I'm with another team. This is where I used to play. And he's going to settle in and have a great game.
Now, Lamar Jackson, his go-to receiver is actually a tight end. It's Mark Andrews. Last week he only had 3 catches, but I'm expecting a lot more between that combination of Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. Now, Jackson, to his credit, one of the things that they've had to do, they have really had to remake their running back, running back by committee. They brought up Devontae Freeman this week. Le'Veon Bell, who played for the Chiefs, is still on the practice squad, so he did not get brought up for this game.
Right.
They brought in Latavius Murray. They also got Tyson Williams. It's going to be very imperative if you're Baltimore, you've got to keep Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City on the sideline, that offense on the sideline, for as long as humanly possible. And the best way to do that is by running the football. So the reason for me with the three running backs that they have, they all have different styles, and those different styles will kind of cause Kansas City problems again. If Kansas City repeats what they did last week, where Steve Spagnuolo said that they had a lot of problems. They had a lot of problems, where they attacked them and stuff like that. That it could be a long night for Kansas City's defense. You know what?
I think with Tyrann Mathieu back there, we saw without Tyrann Mathieu that they struggled a little bit last week. And here it is today. Tyrann Mathieu, he wants to prove to everybody that, hey, he can come out there no matter if he's been out 10 days, 2 days, 40 days, that he's still able to be the same honey badger that he is if he's, consistent, having practiced every day. So I think Tyrann's going to be out there, and I've been saying this, he's the head and shoulders of this team, not just the defense of the football team. And Patrick Mahomes is, of course, the body. And without Tyrann Mathieu, this team is kind of array. I just don't think that they're the same team, and we saw it. And today, I think it's going to be a totally different defense that we see.
Darren Smith, Steve Walls. We are live from M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, with the Chiefs. In just under 40 minutes, we'll be taking on the Baltimore Ravens Sunday Night Football. Of course, you can watch it on
You guys can see them behind us. You're able to see that. That's the stadium right there. We're here in the building.
No green screen, no green screen, no cap or anything like that. Look, not only Tyrann is returning in tonight's ball game, but also Frank Clark. Now, we haven't seen Frank Clark at all. Not in preseason, not in the first game. He injured his hamstring early on in training camp. What are you expecting of Frank Clark in tonight's ball game? Because it's going to be key to see what he does. Now, here's the thing. Baltimore, their left tackle is out. Their right tackle, who they acquired of Villanueva from Pittsburgh,
right?
He had problems last week in the Monday night game on the right side. They're moving him to his natural position on the left side. So I don't know, I don't know where Frank or Chris Jones are going to be, but they're going to be licking their chops tonight, trying to eat tonight. But what do you think Frank Clark is going to be able to bring in his first game out tonight?
I think Frank's going to be on a pitch count. I really do. I post game, we're going to ask Andy how he thought Frank did. He's going to go and say, hey, I wanted to ease Frank in there. I wanted to see what he had. But I think he's going to be on a pitch count. And what we've seen from Andy over the past, 8-9 years that he's been in Kansas City, we saw it with Eric Berry. When a player is injured, he eases them back in there, or he plays around with the media and says, oh, he's week to week, day to day. So I think
but it's also going to be how the game plays itself out.
Exactly. So I think Frank is going to be eased back in. I don't think they're just going to throw him in there and expect him to play, a full game. But here's the thing: we saw what Chris Jones was able to do once the left tackle for the Cleveland Browns went out. They moved Chris up and down the defensive line, and Chris had 2 sacks last week.
Yeah, 2 sacks.
And I think that's definitely giving him a lot of confidence. And we know Frank is going to be licking his chops trying to get some action. He wants to put what happened in the offseason behind him, so that way he can understand that teams are going to need him, because we all said we don't know if the Kansas City Chiefs are going to bring Frank back next year just because of money issues and his production, and that's neither here nor there. But I think Frank's going to come and play ball tonight.
Offensively for Kansas City, one of the players that we haven't mentioned yet is Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, last week he had 6 catches. He had 2 touchdowns. Generally, in this type of ball game against the Ravens, this is going to be a team that's probably going to try to blitz Kansas City. Now, you do that at your own peril in tonight's game, but last week, but generally against the Ravens, Patrick and Travis and even Tyreek, they generally have good games against the team. And also McCole Hardman generally has a good game against the Baltimore Ravens as well. So that might be a player that we also need to look out for in tonight's ball game.
We talked a lot this week about the ball only going to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Now, Miko talked during Friday, and he was asked, you got 3 targets and three catches. He said, what do I get? 3 targets, 3 catches. If I'm demanding the ball and taking away from arguably the top tight end in the league and the top wide receiver in the league, that'd be selfish of me. That'd be very selfish of me. And I think we're going to see Patrick today just because it's been in the media, it's been headlines. I think he's going to try to spread the ball. Yeah. That's just their MO.
I hope so, but I hope Patrick understands. I got a parlay going that he needs to make sure he hit my number.
What's the parlay?
Well, Travis needs to have at least 8 catches.
Oh, that's going to be tough.
Well, against his defense, they're going to come after him. So.
I say that because he's gonna go out there. You're going to see Miko get some catches. You're going to see Tyreek. You're going to see a lot. Of course, it's going to depend on how they play.
Yeah.
Of course. But here's the thing. He's going to spread it around at least the first half.
Now, let me mention this. With the return of Tyrann Mathieu, one of the players that I think will continue to play well with his coming back to lineup is Juan Thornhill. Of course, Juan had a big play last week where he caused the fumble. Mike Hughes, Mike Hughes had the game-winning interception against Baker Mayfield last year. Talk more, if we can, about Tyrann and what his presence, because Steve Spagnuolo said that his presence along with Anthony Hitchens, allows him to do so much with his defense and his play calling, because they know how to, they know the plays, they know where to get the player that lined up where they need to be at on the field.
Exactly. Tyrann is the guy that watches a lot of film, and you see a lot of plays where Juan Thornhill, he even talked about, he said, hey, I hadn't been out there with the ones, and played that many minutes in a long time. Just because of his injury. And so Tyrann, he's a guy that sees ball, gets ball. He doesn't second guess his decision that he makes. And even if he does second guess it, you won't never know. One thing that he will do is he'll fly to the ball. And if he's so good that he's able to get back into the correct position. So that not only helps the back end, but it helps the guys down front, because Steve Spagnuolo is now able to call some of those exotic blitzes that we've seen him do, because he knows that the back end is safe with Tyrann out there.
One of the things that we generally don't talk about much, but we don't overlook it, special teams. We saw what happened last week when Cleveland hadn't punted the ball until the fourth quarter.
Right.
Their punter caught a bobble. Instead of just kicking, they tried to run. Special teams was able to tackle them. And, of course, now that was following, their 3-and-out following Patrick Mahomes and the 75-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek. How important is it going to be in tonight's game as we see the Chiefs on the field for special teams to play a factor in tonight's game, especially with Kansas City being a 3.5-point favorite?
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen or had a special team touchdown. We saw it in preseason. We saw it in. Did we get a touchdown last year from special teams?
McCole.
McCole had one, but it's McCole even said that he has to settle down and make sure that he catches the ball when he's supposed to catch the ball and lets it go during punts. And then we're going to see a lot of Byron Pringle with kickoff. Byron Pringle is not a guy that's going to try to juke. He's a guy to catch the ball and is going to run, straight north. That's just what he does. So I think with special teams, we're going to need to see something special happen. And I don't think it needs to be in tonight's game, but later on down the season, there's going to come a time when special teams needs to set up, and they're going to have to play 3 phases, which I think they played very decent because if you remember, Cleveland punted and not until the fourth quarter last week. So that takes if punt is taken totally out of it, kickoff return is going to be huge.
I was going to say one of the things that we need to look forward to is the Chargers, but the Chargers lost in today's game. So outside of the Chargers, the Raiders, along with the Denver Broncos, are undefeated. So Kansas City, now look, this is an important game. Not going to say it's a must-win. It's must-win more so for Baltimore so they don't fall to 0-2. But Kansas City, seeing how the Raiders have played, seeing how the Broncos have played, need to win to stay tied up with their 2 divisional rivals.
When I saw that there were 5 teams in the AFC that lost. 5 teams that were picked in preseason. That's to be 5 of the 6, and that's including the Kansas City Chiefs. So 5 of those teams lost, and they were picked in the preseason to be the top teams. Yeah. So that leaves Kansas City as just that outlier, and all they have to do is just take care of business.
Yeah, I mean, and that is easier said than done. Looking at this, of course, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, 2018, 2019 MVPs facing off against each other. Of course, Aaron Rodgers won it last year. Patrick, right now, last week was voted AFC Player of the Week. So, MVP voting, if we were to start today, obviously, he'd be well ahead of everyone. But, again, Sammy Watkins and a few others have talked about this quote-unquote rivalry, even though it's a little one-sided. Tilting towards Kansas City. How important is it? Now, Lamar Jackson, he tries to downplay it, but Sammy Watkins and others, and even people on the Chiefs have kind of pumped themselves some as a rivalry it is. But do you sense that this is a rivalry between these 2 teams and 2 players?
No, because if Patrick Mahomes is asked about if it's a rivalry, all he has to say is, "I own you, son." I mean, he's beat them.
Well, he's not going to say that.
Of course, but I'll say it for him. He owns you. Like, and here's the thing about that: when you beat a guy so many times and he has yet to beat you in meaningful games, like this game right here, if the Chiefs go out there and just lose this game, which I don't think they will, in the grand scheme of things, it really is not going to matter. Of course, it's going to give the Baltimore Ravens a little bit of an edge if it comes down to it going into the playoffs, but I just don't think that this game is as meaningful as it would be an AFC Championship game or a playoff game that'll be at Arrowhead.
Now, because of what the Raiders, I don't want to say exposed them last week, but but the Raiders continue to do Raider type things. The Ravens, they had a hard time stopping Derek Carr. So I mean, it's easy to say that we expect a big game from Patrick Mahomes. If the Ravens do the same thing that they did, that they did against the Raiders, yes, I expect a big game from Patrick, because if you're going to try to blitz him, Patrick is damn near unstoppable against the blitz. So be that as, so considering that, as the Chiefs walk back into Tyreek, kind of waving to the crowd, giving them the business. But as we look ahead, as we get ready to close out, what do you expect in tonight's game where Kansas City, well, let's start with Baltimore. What does Baltimore need to do to pull out a win tonight?
Those guys in that are filling in for the guys that are on injured reserve. Look, there's some positions on an NFL football team that just you can't make that up, right? You throw in some guys that are bring up some guys from the practice squad. You go out in free agency and see who's there and try to add them to your roster. But there's cornerbacks, and then there's some running backs that you just can't. From a starter to that second, third string is just too much of a difference in talent. It just is. And so I think that those guys, that second and third stringers, they're going to have to come out here and play balls to the wall tonight if they want to win.
But now, my opinion, as it relates to Baltimore trying to win tonight's ball game, that defensive line, because of the experience that they have, they're going to have to try to expose the youthfulness of, especially the right side for Patrick Mahomes with Creed Humphreys, Lucas Niang, and Trey Smith. I think for them to have that great success, and look, obviously they do know Orlando Brown's greatest strength and his greatest weaknesses. I think Calais Campbell could probably try to expose that or whatever, I guess whatever type of moves he put on him in practice, he might be able to do it in tonight's ball game. They're going to have to get to Patrick, and they're going to have to get to Patrick within 2 seconds of him snapping the football, because if he has any more time than that, I think that's going to allow him to be able to get the ball out, when you least expect it. On the flip side, for Kansas City to win tonight's ball game, what do they need to do?
Continue to come out here and play. I think like we talked about earlier, Patrick needs to spread the ball around. I'm not saying that they need to be 50-50 run to pass, but you're going to have to somehow even it out, because teams are just going to sit. I mean, Tampa Bay has shown teams the formula of how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You have some linebackers that are out there playing space and cover.
Might not have the personnel.
They don't. Yeah. I don't think they do. But if they want to try to defend this team, the Chiefs are going to have to come out here and at least try to run the ball.
One thing that Kansas City cannot do, they can't come in overconfident, especially knowing that they got players on the injury reserve. Obviously, they're without Marcus Peters. They know what Sammy Watkins can do when healthy. He is actually healthy, so Kansas City's going to need to watch out for that. But I think offensively, to your point, they are going to have to be a little bit more about that. They're going to have to, and the linemen do. They want to establish the run. They want to establish their dominance. I think if Kansas City can at least get some net plus positive yards,
I agree.
Running the football, that'll keep the defense a little honest. And then once they try to inch up and they try to put an eighth man in the box to try to slow down or stop the running game, I can hit them going over the top. So before we get out of here, what's your score in tonight's game?
I think the Chiefs are going to hit their average. I think it'll be 35-17. The Chiefs.
Yeah, obviously for Baltimore to win, they have to score in the 30s.
Yeah.
We saw just last week, as we've seen the last couple of seasons, that to beat Kansas City, you have to get in the 30s, and you have to put your foot on their neck to where they can't come back. Because with Patrick, as we saw last week, they can hit you with a 75-yard play that takes 4 or 5 seconds.
And that's what they're going to try to take away.
And it's easier said than done, as we know. I got Kansas City winning this game. I do have them winning it 34-30. I actually have them covering the spread. I got them going over tonight's
64
game.
points.
But yeah, I haven't. But it's just something about Kansas City and their tackling. I'm just not convinced that they've worked all that out within one game. And because the Ravens know that everything starts and ends with Lamar Jackson, he's gonna run the football. That's just who he is. He's gonna try to run the football. He is gonna try to pass as well, because he's gonna have to get players involved. Because if you take the passing game away, you force him to run. I mean, the man's only got so much legs, that he can do in tonight's game. So we have to make before we get out of here, Steve. You look sharp. Who sound you, man?
I want to give a quick recognition to my good friends over at Dillard's Zona Rosa. You can contact Jeff and they some suits. You have some tailor-made suits that they have there. Also like the Murano line. And for the ladies, you can go and get styled as well. Yeah,
look, I've got to say thank you once again to Todd White of Todd's Tailor Suits and Todd Suits. Todd's Clothing and Tailor Suits. Be there as a mate. Thanking him. Of course, you can stop by. He has 2 locations. One down on 21st and Broadway. The other over in Ward Parkway, right on the state line. Go by there. He has a homecoming suit special for your high schoolers. Go by there and check it out. And I also want to thank Cherry Sports Gear as well for her lodging for us this weekend. So definitely want to thank Taylor Trade. Make sure you go to cherrysportsgear.com, cherrysportsgear.com. She has a buy one, get one free special that ends tomorrow. So make sure you go cherrysportsgear.com. But make sure you join us post-game. We'll bring you live post-game coverage of Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and other Chiefs players at the podium on our respective social media platforms. So For Steve Walls, make sure you catch him.
Can't forget tomorrow. Tomorrow, come and check out myself, Darren Smith, DJ Q, and also Uncle Sean Tyler, who will be at Soiree Steak and Oyster House for the Red Hour. The Red Hour is the #1 Kansas City Chiefs Monday night talk show. So come out and hang out with us 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. We have a lot lined up. We'll talk about today's game. We'll talk about a lot of other football news that is going to happen between today and tomorrow.
And Steve, let people know where they can reach out to you on social media.
For sure. You can reach out to me at Steve Walls KC on all social media platforms and at the W Show KC on all social media platforms as well.
And, of course, you can catch me Monday through Friday, ESPN Kansas City, 3 to 4 p.m. Darren and Sterling, Thursday night following Thursday night football on Sports Radio 810 WHB with the Ship with Darren Smith. Of course, Steve Walls with the W, 11 o'clock a.m. on Saturday mornings, 101.1 FM. And as you said, we got the Red Hour tomorrow, 6:30, 7:30. Until then, we are out of here. Thank you so much for joining us, and go Chiefs.